Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Monday, March 31st. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. If you are new, since the MLB season is very young, I really just do the core picks for FanDuel at this point in time. If you have any questions related to DraftKings, feel free to drop them below, and I can give you kind of my best advice based off that as well. I'll take a look over at the price and everything else like that. But just in general, my core picks is going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. We're going to be relying a little bit more on the past history just since we're so early on in the season, but I will highlight some of the early season successes for some of these hitters at the same time as well. And then last but not least, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for this slate overall. If you're interested in more in-depth notes in terms of the pitchers, kind of breaking them down, their history versus their respective opponent, whether or not I would consider them a void, a risky play, or in play just in general, and some notable hitter versus pitcher matchups, as well as some additional top stacks, feel free to check out my Patreon, very small monthly donation over there, and you will be getting those MLB DFS notes Monday through Friday. Will be the occasional Saturday coming up in the very near future for that as well. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it with the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position. I will say it's not the strongest pitcher day overall. There is a lot of pitchers that don't have history versus the teams that they're going against are very, very minimal history at that. It'd be very easy to go out there and play Tyler Glasnow, who has had some pretty decent success versus Atlanta in the past. Although, Atlanta has a decent lineup at the end of the day. I ultimately ended up on Bowden Francis here, trying to get a little bit off that ownership going against the Washington Nationals. He did not pitch against them last year, but the season prior he had a couple matchups for some of their hitters and everything else like that. But he is $8,700. If you look at what he did last year, it's just over 20 fantasy points, but he only made 13 starts. Most of his appearances did come out of the bullpen, so obviously that lowers it down quite a bit. Strikeouts were up in spring training, although he was a little bit more hittable there. He had a ERA of 7.63, which I'm not really too worried about. Spring training guys are working through things. They're probably throwing their fastball a little bit more, working on control, everything else like that. Gave up like 5 home runs in like 15 innings, so maybe a little bit of a concern there, but I definitely do like his upside in this matchup going against the Washington Nationals. Once again, if you really want to go out there and play Tyler Glasnow like most of the field, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to our hitters. Got Jake Cronenworth here at second base. You could also play him at first base since he does have that flexibility. He is $3,000, averaging just over 11 fantasy points as we do start off the season. And I'm just going to start bringing these up now for these videos where I do talk about kind of what they've done so far on the season. Jake Cronenworth in his career 1-for-2 versus Luis Ortiz, the expected starting pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. He's on a modest 2-game hitting streak as we do speak. 1 multi-hit game during that time span as well as 1 home run. So seeing that Jake Cronenworth had a pretty decent start to the season, 300 batting average, 1 home run, 1 RBI, obviously still very young on the season overall. Then we move down to shortstop of Bo Bichette. He's $3,000. He's really turned it on as of late after that first 0-for-4 day, but since then, modest 3-game hitting streak, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, double digits in 2 of them, and he's had at least 9 points in his last 3 games. And in his career versus Michael Soroka, the expected starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals, he's 2-for-5. So I definitely do like that upside at a pretty decent price tag of $3,000. Once again, he is batting .467, 0 home runs, 1 RBI, and averaging about 13 fantasy points per game on the season. Then we get moved down to the outfield. I'm going to start off with Tommy Edman. He's also eligible at shortstop and second base. He's had a really strong start to the season. It may not look like it when we look at the average there, but he's on a modest 5-game hitting streak. None of those games have been multi-hit. However, he does have 3 home runs in those 5 games, 3 double-digit performances, so definitely do like his upside at an attractive price tag of $2,700. Does offer some versatility there at that. I don't believe he has any history in his career versus Grant Holmes, so that might be the one thing that probably doesn't make him quite as attractive at this point in time, but Dodgers are always going to be a pretty popular lineup. Even throwing him out there as a one-off with the success that he's had early on in the season. So I definitely do like him on the slate overall as a relatively cheap price tag of $2,700. 238 average, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs, and averaging just under 14 fantasy points per game so far on the season. And then last but not least, we're going to move down to Heliot Ramos of the San Francisco Giants. Going against the Houston Astros, Ronel Blanco on the mound for them. He is 1-for-3 versus Ronel Blanco in his career. So very small sample size there to be had, but off to a really strong start to the season. He has at least 1 hit in all 3 games that he's played so far this season for a 3-game hitting streak. 1 multi-hit game during that time span, 2 double-digit performance, as well as 2 home runs. Heliot Ramos on the season, 333 average, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, just under 19 fantasy points per game. I like that he has a little bit of history versus Blanco, 1-for-3 there. and he's had some success early on this season, $3,400. I definitely think that's a pretty fair price tag for him overall. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $14,200 remaining, just over $3,500 remaining per player. So a decent amount of money, whether you want to pay up for a couple star hitters, or, if you want to pay down at some positions, maybe pay up at pitcher and go with Tyler Glasnow. But I do expect him to be very, very popular on the slate overall, since he does have the highest upside of any starting pitcher just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. We are going to start off with the Tampa Bay Rays. They are going against Carmen Melodowski, probably mispronouncing his name, for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He is kind of a converted reliever back to starter, was stretched out in the spring. We'll see how far he does pitch in this game. Rays don't have much history versus him, if any at all, so that is a little bit of sketchiness there, but I'd like the Rays. They're pretty cheap. That lineup doesn't look like too scary at this point in time, but going against the more inexperienced starter, as well as the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen, definitely does offer some upside. Then I have the St. Louis Cardinals going against Tyler Anderson. Not a lot of successful history versus him in the past, but he was really, really rough in spring training. I think some of these Cardinals bats are going to hit left-handed pitching pretty well. Nolan Arenado's off to a really strong start to the season. Was almost in my core picks, but he is 0 for 4 versus Tyler Anderson in his career. I like him. I like Jordan Walker. Wilson Contreras does have really good history versus Tyler Anderson. However, he's like 0 for 14 to start the season. I don't expect that trend to continue, so maybe buy low on him overall. And then we move over to the San Diego Padres, going to look against Luis Ortiz. Not a long list of history here, but most of their hitters have hit him pretty well in the past, or at least have one hit versus him, so definitely do like him. And then last but not least, I do have the Chicago Cubs going against Joey Estes of the Athletics. Not a long list of history there, but most of these Cubs hitters at least have one hit versus him in the past, so definitely do like the upside of that Cubs lineup. You could also throw the Toronto Blue Jays in the mix, going against Michael Soroka as kind of that 5th team to stack. Good day for stacking overall, so definitely feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my core picks and top GPP stacks for Monday, March 31st. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below. In the morning, I will be posting up the weather report that will be left as a pinned comment. I'll be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening as well. So definitely be on the lookout for all that, as well as any updates to the core. If somebody that is in my core does ultimately end up not starting for the day overall. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks Monday through Friday. I will also be posting up my UFL DFS video. I think I'm going to typically post it up on Tuesdays. It might vary a little bit week to week, but at least early on in the season, probably going to be coming out on Tuesdays. And then I will be posting some NFL draft content up as we head into the actual NFL draft at the same time as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. I'd be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Monday, March 31st.